We'll take an opportunity to talk a little bit about AFRICOM, about what we're doing, and kind of have a discussion and take your questions. Our main focus is to provide what we can to help a stable, secure, and safe environment on the continent. And one of the best ways to do that is to build partnerships. And that's one of our main aspects, is building engagements, building partnerships that are based on trust and credibility. And certainly trust and credibility go both ways, as we know, in a relationship. And sometimes it doesn't always go well, but we continue those efforts toward good trust and credibility. We get stronger as we work together. Our strategy overall is focused in the security realm, the military realm, and in some cases the police, when we're allowed to work with police. But everything we do at the behest of the host nations that we work with, and in coordination and with approval of the U.S. Embassy and the ambassador in the countries with which we work. And then the State Department and the Embassy, they're the ones that coordinate the interagency. So the other agencies from the United States, Department of Defense just being one of them, we work in a coordinated manner, in a synchronized manner with the host nation governments to provide that security, stability, and safety. We also work with the AU. We work with the EU, work with Nato, work with the UN, and other organizations that want to work with us. So we do that continuously. Of course, economic growth is important. Security undergirds economic growth and is important there. The health and welfare of the citizens in the countries is important, and security undergirds that growth, and institution development. So a lot of people have a lot of different ideas as to what institutions are and how they can help. They do become part of the bureaucracy, I guess, but those institutions are important, and certainly we're focused on those institutions that best provide for the security in these countries. Part of the principles, one is that the military and the security apparatus is under civilian oversight. Another is the respect for the rule of law, and these are some fundamental principles. The other is, of course, human rights. So I'm overall optimistic about Africa. The economy is growing overall in Africa. Obviously, some countries have growth statistics that are better than others, depending what their products and their trade is, and how they run their economies. The governance is getting better across Africa. There are fewer civil wars and insurgencies and coups than there have been in the past. IT-wise and in the technology field, Africa is getting better. It is an open market for media apparatus, computers, and cellular phones. The people that have access in Africa, the statistics that I've heard for cell phones and computers is the equivalent to the population of North America. That would be Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And it's growing. There's an expanding middle class in Africa. And the civil organizations, I think, are increasing and improving. So that relationship between the population and the governments, in many cases, which they tend to balance each other out, right? So the civic society, civil society keeps an eye on the government. I think those are increasing, and that dynamic is going to the better. There are other partners in the world that we have also. Europe has a close affinity with the African continent and many of the countries, and there's still a lot of interest there in trade and the development of the countries. And I'm constantly amazed at how closely related the European countries are and those in Africa. The African Union, I'll touch on them for a moment. I know you have some interest there. I think is probably one of the most singularly most important organizations on the continent. Africa does not have a Nato like Europe does, and I think the next best organization is the AU, with their ability to organize and coordinate actions with the various countries toward peacekeeping, disaster relief, and taking care of folks in humanitarian situations. They also, and it's important, they see the importance and the requirement for good logistical support across Africa, which includes operational air support. So that's the C-17s, the C-130s that have been used in the past to take forces from Burundi, Uganda, and other type countries into Central African Republic, etc. So there's a need for there, and I know, or need for that, and we work pretty close with the African Union when they ask for assistance there. Also, the coordination for peacekeeping. I think, as you know, the United States is one of the largest contributors to AMISOM under the AU in support of ongoing efforts in East Africa. Last, I'll just touch on the media, because I think you're probably interested in things media. I think there's a responsibility for the media also for trust and credibility in what's reported, and I know there are some challenges there. I just read an article here this morning on the drastic decline in media freedom worldwide, and various entities that try and infringe on freedom of the press and freedom of speech. Okay, one last thing. I know you were interested in just the AFRICOM kind of structure overall, and kind of statement on who we are and what we do. So AFRICOM is one of the United States government's combatant commands, which is what we call the combatant commanders, or the regional commanders, and we have components and I think you've probably been briefed on the components that we have. So we have an Air Force component, an Army component, a Navy component, a Marine component, and a Special Operations component. As well, we have many of our U.S. agencies that are also involved here, and an integrated part of our command. So with that, I'll open it up to any discussion or questions that you may have.
Thank you, sir. So we'll go around from your left to, and hopefully we can go back and forth once. And if you'd please, with the first question you ask, please also introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Iskander. I'm based in Addis Ababa. I work for the Voice of America Horn of Africa service. My question is, AFRICOM became operational in 2008. What has changed since 2008? Regarding your presence in Africa, for example, have there been more U.S. boots on the African soil since since AFRICOM became operational? Because before 2008, AFRICOM was under the European command. What has changed since then?
Okay. All right. Good question. So I think when does everybody remember the rollout of AFRICOM?
Not at
You don't
all.
remember?
Didn't know about it.
Okay. So do you remember in 2008? You don't remember AFRICOM rollout? So the rollout of you don't remember?
I remember the controversy.
The controversy.
You mean
Right?
controversy? Yes. Okay.
Okay, you remember the controversy? Okay, so you don't remember the controversy? The announcement could have been a little bit better.
Okay.
Okay, so it was rolled out that we are going to have a combatant command now for the continent of Africa. So what would everybody think? Right? If it wasn't followed up with kind of what we were really trying to do. So there was concern that the United States was trying to militarize Africa, which couldn't be further from the truth. The design of AFRICOM was to develop defense institutions to help the security apparatus in the various countries. Again, it would be African countries that ask us for assistance, and not all of them do. And then through our ambassador and U.S. Embassy, we would determine what could be done, what we agreed to do, what the countries have the resources to do, what we have the resources to do, and then develop implementation plans to do that. The first, call it the organization of AFRICOM, was very, very heavy in civilians. So we had more civilians in the headquarters than we did military. And it was because we were going to be doing various theater security cooperation programs on the continent. So that was the initial. So it was important that we did engagement, that we developed relationships, back to the trust and credibility piece that I talked about. Then existed Gaddafi, right? Then was Odyssey Dawn, which was the NATO mission in Libya. Okay, and AFRICOM was not necessarily prepared at that time to be involved in combat operations on the continent. That wasn't necessarily going to be the design. So there was no initial interest in any kind of militarization of the continent. But forced into that situation, right, NATO came together, the various countries of NATO, and then executed Odyssey Dawn. So since that time, then was Benghazi, Mali, coup in Mali, South Sudan, and then CAR, and there have been other things, but then the latest being Ebola. So AFRICOM as a headquarters with our components has had to mature from where we started to where we are now. We are the youngest COCOM of all the regional and functional COCOMs. I think the next youngest is NORTHCOM, and I think they're 12 years old. So that's my little kind of story on AFRICOM from the beginning and the controversial rollout to where we are now. Now, I think the reflections that we get back is positive from most of the African countries. They see what we're trying to do, that we are trying to assist with stability and safety and security, primarily focused on the security apparatus and the building of those institutions in those countries. So our exercises are directed and crafted with the participating countries to do just that. And 99.9% of what we do is through the militaries of the African countries with which we work.
Thank you,
Does
sir.
that answer it?
Sure, thank you.
I'm Janine and I'm based in Johannesburg in South Africa. I work for the Africa or the External Service of the National Broadcaster, the SABC. My service is called Channel Africa.
Okay.
And we are very much mostly Africa focused. I wanted to ask another question, but I think I'll just revisit what I think you wanted to ask because somebody will ask mine. Before AFRICOM was rolled out, Africa fell under the European Command as we understand it. What prompted the switch from Europe Command to a fully fledged named AFRICOM with even a base in Djibouti and headquarters here? So why was a separate Africa dedicated unit by name created?
Yeah, that's a good question. There have been a lot of changes to the global, organization of the Department of Defense. So since 9/11, we did develop NORTHCOM. We developed the Department of Homeland Security. We brought our intelligence institutions together, and taking a step back to the Department of Homeland Security, under which the Border Patrol and other immigration, under which they fall, because they were separate, they were scattered, so there was not a good synchronization. So as we looked at what we needed to do and what the European command was doing, the leadership of our nation believed that in the past Africa had not received its due attention, and that we hadn't focused on Africa enough. That it was a theater, that what we call a kind of a economy of force theater. So only if there were really urgent things that went on in the continent would we focus more. And I think that was a prudent decision. And then to develop. I remember the start of AFRICOM because all of the other COCOMs and the various military services had to provide people for this new command. They didn't just take European command and split it. So they had to provide, so it was developed pretty much as a new command. There were some folks that came from European command. So I think it was the realization that the United States had not focused on Africa, so that Africa and Africans received their just due of attention and resources also, especially from the Department of Defense. You know, State Department was in Africa. We had embassies. U.S. aid has been in Africa for decades. But I think it was a realization in the Department of Defense that we needed to do better, hence the creation of AFRICOM.
Thank you.
Next question.
I'm Charles Onyango Obo. I work for the Mail and Guardian. I'm based in Nairobi. From the evolution of AFRICOM that you've described, do you feel that your mission has evolved into basically a grand African state building project? I know state building is a controversial word in the U.S. But in many ways, whether you look at institution building, security, essentially what you have is a state building project. Do you look at it that way?
I think there is a large aspect of that. As we deal with countries that believe they're challenged in certain areas, we are looking at the larger aspect. So the State Department, the President, the National Security advisor would be looking at how we can help countries. Our aspect is just the defense building, right? But I think there is a larger aspect. So in just reading, so the Foreign Affairs, this is one I've had for quite a while because it was a very good one. October of 2013. So Macky Sall, did you ever hear him?
Yes. We have.
Okay. The president of Senegal, great article called "Africa's Turn: A Conversation with Macky Sall." I've been to Senegal and really had a great visit there. So there's a saying out there: African solutions to African problems. Did you ever hear that?
Sure.
So we agree with that 100%. But sometimes we also believe that those solutions may require some outside assistance, right? To finally solve them or to mitigate those solutions. So it's a good article, but he's being asked questions by a journalist, right? And one of the questions is, so can Africa take care of its own problems now? And what he said was no. Africa cannot handle its own problems because we are not yet at the point where we have the logistical capabilities to deploy troops in case of emergency. It's simply a matter of means, not a matter of men. Remember when our troops intervened in Mali, they deployed over land. Today, Senegalese troops are in Gao, which is 2,400 kilometers away. And then he goes on. So I think there are countries that may realize, which I think is a healthy thing, that they may need some assistance, whether it's advice, whether it's resources, whether it's training, whether it's education. And that's where I think the United States in our various institutions can assist.
Next question.
My name is Emmanuel Gunza from BBC News. My question is about one of the latest security issues in the continent. The African Union has put out an appeal for international support for Nigeria and neighboring countries to fight Boko Haram. Realistically, what can the US AFRICOM do to help Nigeria, bearing in mind the concerns or questions surrounding the human rights record of the military there?
Yeah. Yes, this is a real challenge that we focus on every day. We are in continuing coordination with the government of Nigeria. We provide intelligence to the government. We have in the past provided training to certain units and organizations. We have had foreign military sales with Nigeria, so equipment and vehicles. And we stand ready to assist in whatever way they see as being practical. So that's with the government of Nigeria. We are also very interested in the development of this multinational task force by the bordering countries in the northeast of Nigeria and Nigeria to assist in whatever way we can there also toward their development, their training, their mobility, their logistics, etc., so that as a combined and unified force can have an effect on this very, very terrible situation in northeast Nigeria. And now, of course, we've all seen it spilling out into the neighboring countries, the latest of which was the cross-border incursion into Difa in Niger last week. So we will continue to work with the international community and the AU on trying to find some type of mitigation, resolution, and develop the what it's going to take is combat power to go against Boko Haram.
Next question.
Let's go to the other side of the continent, to Somalia, particularly in the fight against al-Shabaab. Are AFRICOM and the U.S. military, special operations perhaps, are you guys looking at becoming more kinetically involved in Somalia? And what can't you do there because of policy and funding, lack of policy and funding?
Okay, first one was kinetically. Well, again, a grand majority of what we do is by, with, and through, which we continue to do. So that's by, with, and through the Djiboutians, the Ethiopians, the Kenyans, the Ugandans, that are part of AMISOM, troop contributing countries in that fight. So we continue to strategize with the AU, with AMISOM, on what the next steps are. So we're looking for the past offensive operation in Indian Ocean, we believe was successful. I'd even want to say very successful, based on the impact on al-Shabaab and the areas they were in. Pushed out of Baladogle, or pushed out of Barawe into the Juba river valley now. But there's been a pause, an operational pause, because the forces there reached a culminating point where they had to reorganize to a degree, get their logistics back up, reset for the next offensive, which they're planning. They've been successful to the point that now Al-Shabaab is conducting operations in the bordering countries. So Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya. So because they have to, they've gone from conventional warfare to irregular warfare because they're being squeezed so hard. We are intent, and there is dialogue going on about establishing and opening a U.S. embassy in Mogadishu. So that'll be a very positive step. But I don't have a timeline for that. So we'll continue to work with the government of Somalia. We'll continue to work with the president and his folks, and continue to work in training the Somali National Army. But here's where they need some pretty serious institution building, and we're ready to do that. There's partner nations. We're working with the Brits. We're working with the Turks. There's other countries that are involved in also building the Somali National Army. So I see that situation as becoming more, optimistic as I have spent, since my time here at AFRICOM. I've seen that become a better and better situation as we go along. But a lot of these things just take a lot of time. So the Ethiopians, their participation, they're joining AMISOM made a big difference this last year, and they're, the other forces also. So we'll continue to work with the troop contributing countries so that we can continue to go against the Al-Shabaab.
Next question.
My name is Adrian Tambo. I'm a reporter for Daily Nation in Nairobi. My question is about Ebola, so what is Africom's role in terms of the post-outbreak measures? The AU announced the other day that they will be creating some form of a center for disease control. I'm just interested in knowing what Africom's role will be in this whole thing after the disease has.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, good question. And the very, very tragic challenge over time with the number of people that have been killed by Ebola. But I think the world community came together quite well to affect the situation. It's not over yet, so we keep a close eye with the international community and our interagency. So this, for the United States, USAID is the lead agency. So I think you've probably heard that the U.S. forces in Liberia are being reduced. But in the meantime, the statistics I've heard is there's 100,000 people in the primary three countries affected from the international community that are still working against Ebola. So we believe that we've done what we could, and our unique capabilities were used initially. So a couple of things that I think the United States and especially Department of Defense had was our speed and capacity to get down there, which is unique. And I'm glad we're able to do that. Then after a while, so we got there and we're building Ebola treatment units, setting up labs, working with the governments. And then after a while, the international community came in, even and more of our agencies, USAID and State Department came in, and then the UN came in. So I think the valuable piece was that we did have the speed and initial capacity in there to help the government and for people to see that was occurring. But now the international community has stepped up. Now, so what's the next step? We need to develop those health and medical institutions so that they are more resilient in the future to outbreaks of Ebola or other challenges such as that. This was a public health issue for which the governments were not prepared to combat and then defeat. So, not being a public health official, I'd have to, have you talk to those type of experts to say what the future would look like and what needs to be developed in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea for the future, and other countries too. Other countries were watching, but certainly this not only took Africa by surprise, but it took the world by surprise. So South America was very, very interested. We had Ebola cases in the United States, as you know. Europe was concerned. So I think there's enough attention now and an awful lot of resources that have gone to those Western countries. But again, I'll go back to say that it's not over yet. There's still a lot of attention there. We just believe at our point, the Department of Defense's requirement has decreased to the point that we will have around a little bit over 100 folks that are down there working with the government of Liberia to continue to support in whatever's needed by our U.S. aid.
Next question.
Thank you. Elias, correspondent for Just Associated Press from Ethiopia. You described the African Union's increasing role in mitigating crises throughout Africa, but still it seems that there is neither the political will nor the capability of some African states, including regional organizations like IGAD, to intervene in conflicts and avert crises. As you know, the situation in South Sudan has been going on since December, mid-December, but still neither the African Union, the IGAD, they are still focusing on the talks despite there is no progress at all. So what really triggers the involvement of American combat forces or boots on the ground in such kind of conflicts? Does it really have to be directly affecting American interest, or you still want to engage in situations where some allied countries like Ethiopia, Kenya, or South Sudan are affected? What really triggers the deployment of those direct combatant forces?
Yeah, good question. And various statesmen over the past, American leaders have tried to develop what those triggers should be, having to do with national security interests of the United. What's a national security interest? What's not a national security interest? And how we then determine and make the decisions that we make to be able to assist. We do look at national interest as all countries do. But I think the United States has expanded in many cases to look at humanitarian requirements to be able to combat human rights abuses, natural disasters, and the requirements for humanitarian assistance. So, the leadership of the United States does make some decisions for the the United States to take action and their military, that doesn't always, you can't always say that it's in our national interest. An example I'll use is the Lord's Resistance Army and Joe Coney. All right, there's no chance that Joe Coney is going to coordinate an attack on the United States. All right, but he and the Lord's Resistance Army has had such a devastating impact over the years in Africa that it caught the leadership, Congress, and the administration's attention, and over the years have put forces on the ground to work with the Ugandans and other countries, and have spent hundreds of millions of dollars in that effort. We believe, and I would say Lord's Resistance Army has been neutralized. And the only thing yet is to try and find Joe Coney, I guess. So that's an example where we really don't see that as a threat to national security for the United States, but have made that kind of effort what I believe is for the countries involved, for the people involved. So Boko Haram. Is Boko Haram a threat to United States security? What do you think? I don't know.
I don't know.
You know, do they have aspirations to attack the United States? I don't think so. Have they threatened that they were going to raise a flag over the capital of the United States like Daesh has? No, they haven't. Are they bad? Are they very bad? Right? Have they killed, who knows how many thousands of people at this point? All right. Is the United States involved? Yes. Are we spending money there? Yes. Are we looking for more involvement as the threat increases? Yes, we are. So these challenges, we look at these challenges and they go up through various institutions. They go through the State Department, they go through the Department of Defense, up to our national leadership to determine if we are going to act, if we are going to put resources toward global challenges, and some of those global challenges are on the African continent. So I can't give you there's 5 things that if these triggers are tripped, then we're going to put U.S. forces in support or boots on the ground. And if you watch the decision-making process of the United States, so just ISIL and Daesh alone, how the United States, in working with partner nations now, are trying to figure out this very, very challenging problem, what resources, what assets to put against that challenge in Syria and in Iraq.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Alexis. I represent Nation Media Group in Addis Ababa, and I'm also editor for newbusinesspaper.com. My question is related to the training that you are giving under Flintlock.
Mm-hmm.
I've been briefed by others, but I wanted to be on the record. So can you give us a full picture, like a setup about when you start and what have you achieved and what you want to achieve and the involvement of countries?
Okay. So, Flintlock is a very, very wonderful exercise. It brings many countries in the Sahel and the Maghreb together to work their special operating forces. And it's primarily their focus is counterterrorism and countering violent extremist organizations. And as you can well imagine, there are a lot of tactics and techniques involved. So the countries that participate and those that observe come together in and around a series of scenarios to exercise their capabilities and to learn from each other how to do things better. They'll study the current intelligence. They'll assess what they believe the situation is with violent extremists on the continent. And then they will exercise their various skills in movement, communications, shooting, and then learn from that. And then they at the end, they look at their lessons learned, how they could do things better, things that they did very well that they want to keep doing, things that they didn't do so well that they need to continue to work on. Maybe there's resources that they don't have that they wish they had, and then they'll go up through their governments and say, these are the lessons learned that we got out of Flintlock, and if we're going to be better next year, we're going to need some resources to do that. As well, the exercise has gone regional. So it used to usually just be in one country, but it'd have a lot of participating countries come in. So if it was in Senegal, it'd be in Senegal. Last year, it was primarily in Niger. This year, it's in Chad, but there are exercise nodes that are in other countries that are communicating with the main node. So this is a step toward a more complex exercise, which is very, very positively reflects on the countries that are participating, that they're capable, of doing distributed operations. As well, there's a strategic communications piece to this, where through the media, through the governmental information institutions, we are able, with the countries that are participating, to communicate to the people of Chad and Niger, Cameroon, the other just exactly what we're doing, right? And in many cases, they'll bring leaders in from the various tribes and explain what's going on. It's not uncommon to have medical folks there or dental folks to provide services to the people, or even veterinary services to folks who have livestock. So there's, as well, it demonstrates the capability of a country to host Flintlock, because there's a lot of planning and coordination and synchronization that goes into just putting on an exercise, even if they're not participating in the exercise. But of course, Chad is participating in the exercise. So we see Flintlock each year as a tremendous exercise to develop those countering violent extremist capabilities. So we look forward to doing that each year, and we've looked out so many years as to who the hosts are and continue to coordinate that. And then as well, we have observers who come. They don't participate, they observe, but then we're always open each year to them actually bringing special operating forces to the country that's hosting the exercise to actually conduct operations and exercise with us.
Thanks, sir. I think we've got about 5 minutes left before we need to get you back out the door. I know you probably want to get some pictures with the general. Do you want to maybe use this now as for, you have any last any closing comments? And we get some.
You have a question?
We all have
Yeah.
I suppose, more questions, but it's fine. No, it's okay.
Well, like I said before, I'm very optimistic on Africa. The people who I've met. Well, first off, I don't get to travel to the continent as much as I'd like to, but the people I've met have been very genuine, very friendly, and seem truly concerned about their people, their citizenship, and are also interested in developing the stability and the safety and security for their governments and for their people. So I look forward to continuing to work with the wonderful people of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you wanted to get some pictures, that'd
Sure.
be good.
Why we? You may sit, we'll also stand behind you. But somebody must take a picture.
Sure.
Benjamin.
Do I have a business card?
After the
Do I have a
general,
business
okay.
cards? But you can get my data from from Ben.
Sure, okay.
Africa has a bit of a challenge, I'm sure.
Do you want to get maybe a group
Where-
picture?
where
Do you-
isn't
we
there
get
a
everybody
challenge
together? Or
today?
let me,
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
With
No, everybody who wants a picture, come stand with. I don't want to ask the general for myself.
You know, I mean, just look at the keep going.
Yeah.
The Middle East.
Robin, okay, General, the other colleagues are waiting too. No, come with you, okay, come and stand.
so,
You have to look through there, and then you focus, and then you press that button. Yeah. But focus first. You can just see, I think the camera is maybe not on.
that might be it.
Ah, indeed,
Okay.
to the left, okay.
And then after you look there, I want you to look into this lens.
Really?
Yeah. And I want you to come up.
And now for the
Okay,
big
everyone not me, please get up there so I can get a group photo of everyone. Okay, right in here, please, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben?